Iran just struck the single most important military facility on Israel's northern border. Not a symbolic target, not a random city, the actual headquarters running Israel's entire war in southern Lebanon. Dado Base in Saft, every troop rotation, every artillery order, every defensive position against Hezbollah. It all runs through this one building. And in the same wave, missiles hit Tel Aviv, Bnei Brak, and Kiryat Shmona. This was wave 80. Read that number again. Wave 80 in 26 days. That is more than 3 attacks per day for nearly a month straight. And here's the part that should terrify every defense planner on Earth. Each Iranian missile costs around $300,000. Each Israeli interceptor costs $3 million. Iran is not running out. Israel is. This video will show you exactly how the math broke, how cluster warheads shattered the logic of air defense, and why the country, spending $200 million a day on defense, is losing to the country, spending a fraction of that on offense. Stay with me. This gets worse every minute. Let me explain why this one strike changes everything. Dado Base is not just another military installation. It is the headquarters of Israel's Northern Command. 2 frontline combat divisions operate under its direct command. Armored units on the Golan Heights. Territorial defense forces on the Lebanese border. All of it funnels through SAFT. When the IRGC described this as the facility responsible for commanding and deploying forces along the northern borders, that was not propaganda. That was a precise description of what this base does every single day. And here is why that matters right now. Israel is not just defending its northern border, it is occupying new territory. On March 17th, Israel launched a fresh ground invasion into southern Lebanon. Defense Minister Israel Katz stated that Israel intends to hold a security zone all the way up to the Litani River until Hezbollah is eliminated. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich went further. He called for the Litani to become Israel's permanent northern border. That is not defense. That is expansion. And Iran just put missiles directly into the command center running it. This is no longer a one-front war. Iran is firing from the east. Hezbollah is launching rockets from the north. Gaza remains unresolved in the south. 3 active fronts. 1 command center just took direct fire. Now let me show you the weapons that did it and why they are almost impossible to stop. Before I explain the missiles, you need to understand one thing. What I am about to show you is not just about military hardware, it is about a cost equation that no defense budget on Earth can win. And it is already collapsing. Here is how. Iran used 2 types of missiles in this wave, the Sejil and the Khorramshahr. Let me break them down in plain terms. The Sejil is a solid fuel ballistic missile. It is roughly 17 meters long, weighs 23 tons, and carries a warhead up to 1 ton. Its range is over 2,000 kilometers. Iran claims it can reach Tel Aviv from central Iran in under 7 minutes. The key detail is the solid fuel. Unlike liquid-fueled missiles that need extended preparation on a launch pad, the Sejil fires from road mobile launchers with almost no warning. It climbs on a ballistic arc, exits the atmosphere, then re-enters at hypersonic speed. That re-entry profile makes it extremely difficult to track and destroy during descent. The Khorramshahr is different. It is liquid-fueled but uses a hypergolic propellant that can sit in storage tanks for years. Launch preparation takes around 12 minutes. It is 17 meters long total and weighs up to 26 tons. But here's what makes it lethal. It carries the heaviest payload in Iran's confirmed arsenal, up to 800 kilograms, and it can be fitted with a cluster warhead containing up to 80 individual submunitions. That single feature has broken the fundamental logic of Israeli air defense. Let me show you how. Most people think Israel's multi-layered defense handles these missiles the way it always has. Track them, intercept them. Problem solved. The reality is the complete opposite, and the gap is widening every single day. Here is why. A ballistic missile carrying a cluster payload approaches its target. Israeli officials say these warheads break apart at about 7 to 10 kilometers altitude. When that happens, dozens of bomblets scatter over a wide area. Each bomblet carries 2 to 5 kilograms of explosives. Dr. Uzi Rubin, former director of Israel's Ballistic Missile Defense Organization, said it plainly. After the cluster is opened, it is too late. Israel's arrow system must destroy the missile before that 7-kilometer threshold. If the arrow hits the missile above that altitude but fails to score a direct kill, the bomblets can still deploy. And here is the problem. Iron Dome was never built for this kind of threat. It handles short-range rockets at lower altitudes. It cannot engage dozens of small, fast-falling submunitions scattered across miles of airspace. The Israeli Air Force has now publicly acknowledged choosing not to shoot down certain cluster bomblets in order to preserve its stockpile of interceptors. Let that sink in. Israel is rationing its defense, not because the technology does not work, but because the cost of using it is unsustainable. And that brings us to the math that is breaking this entire war. What I am about to show you is not speculation. These are confirmed numbers from the Pentagon, the IDF, and the International Energy Agency. and they prove that this war cannot be won the way Israel is fighting it. Here's why. A single Iranian ballistic missile costs between $200,000 and $500,000 to manufacture. A single Arrow 3 interceptor costs $2 to $3 million. A THAAD interceptor runs $12.7 million each. During the 12-day war in June 2025 alone, the United States burned through an estimated 150 THAAD rounds. Total cost, over $1.9 billion. That consumed roughly 14% of the entire American THAAD stockpile. And that war lasted 12 days. This war has now lasted more than double that duration. Estimates put Israel's daily defense expenditure at up to $200 million. And the secondary effects are spreading far beyond fuel. Brent crude has been swinging between $100 and $110 per barrel. It spiked near $120 in the first 2 weeks. Dubai crude hit an all-time high above $150. The Strait of Hormuz has been heavily disrupted since early March. That route carries roughly a fifth of global oil and LNG flows. The International Energy Agency called this the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. Gulf oil production has dropped by at least 10 million barrels per day. The IEA released 400 million barrels from emergency reserves. The biggest such release ever. Prices have barely moved. Now apply that to defense. Interceptors cost 12 to 15 million each. Production is so limited that the Pentagon is now moving to expand output. But expansion takes years. Iran is launching 3 waves per day, right now. And the question no one wants to answer out loud is this. What happens when the side spending $3 million per interception runs out of interceptors, before the side spending $300,000 per missile runs out of missiles? Now here's the part that destroys the narrative you have been hearing from officials. The part that proves Iran's missile capability was never neutralized. Stay with me. Most people believe Iran's offensive capability has been effectively degraded by U.S. and Israeli bombing campaigns inside Iran. Israeli military spokesman Efi Defei claimed Iran initially planned to fire hundreds of missiles on day 1, but managed fewer than 100. He said the daily average dropped to roughly 10. The reality runs in the opposite direction. The IRGC has now executed 80 separate attack waves across 26 days. That is more than 3 waves per day on average. Iran is not running out of missiles. It is shifting to platforms that are harder to find and faster to launch. The introduction of the Zulfikar solid fuel missile in waves 76 and 77 on March 23rd shows a deliberate pivot toward road mobile systems that need no fueling infrastructure and leave almost no detectable signature for satellite surveillance. The IDF confirmed that as of March 20th, 365 ballistic missiles had crossed toward Israel since February 28th. 285 entered Israeli airspace. Around 270 were intercepted. That gives an overall interception rate above 90%. That sounds reassuring until you look at what got through. More than 24 confirmed cluster warhead strikes hit populated areas. 2 construction workers killed in Yehud, 2 residents in their 70s killed in Ramat Gan, at least 6 people killed in a missile strike in Beit Shemesh on March 1st. Nearly 200 wounded in a single attack on Dimona and Arad on March 22nd, after air defense systems failed to intercept at least 2 missiles. And here's the part that exposes the gap between rhetoric and reality. On the same day the IRGC launched Wave 80, President Donald Trump told reporters that Iran is totally defeated and militarily dead. He said American planes are flying over Tehran, and Iran cannot do a thing about it. Hours later, ballistic missiles struck Israeli cities and 4 American military bases across 3 countries. The IRGC spokesperson responded on video. The strategic power you boast about has become a strategic defeat. If you could escape this, you would have already. There is a 26-day gap between what is being said at podiums and what is landing on the ground. And that gap is widening every single day. Let me bring this together. 80 waves in 26 days. Sejil missiles reaching Israeli territory in under 7 minutes. Khorramshahr warheads, scattering 80 bomblets across 10 kilometers that no defense system on Earth can fully stop once deployed. Dado Base, the command hub for Israel's entire northern front, directly targeted. The Strait of Hormuz disrupted. Interceptors being consumed years faster than they can be manufactured. And the country declared militarily dead on Wednesday morning, launched its 80th wave of ballistic missiles by Wednesday night. The question the world has to answer now is not who is winning. It is what happens when the side spending $3 million per interception runs out of interceptors, before the side spending $300,000 per missile runs out of missiles. That is not a hypothetical. That is the trajectory we are on right now. What do you think happens next? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe. If you want to stay updated, I will see you in the next one.